Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is Gabe.
My name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I have a question. Jeff,
Yeah.
how are you doing today?
Doing okay. Just getting over a sickness.
Yeah.
Not sure what it was. Maybe flu adjacent. I don't know.
I think I was getting a sinus infection the other day.
Yeah.
So everybody's got something.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I think I don't know. My dad said something about like, they're good, like, because I was like, I got a flu shot, but I'm still kind of feeling sick. And my dad was like, yeah, but there were also some reports of like, there's like a different like strain of flu that showed up a little earlier than they expected.
Oh, and it's called the Jeff flu.
Yeah.
Sounds ominous.
So, some chump named Jeff started spreading it. No, like it's just one of those things. Like, and like it's not like a serious strain or anything like that. But like, so maybe that's what I had, because it didn't feel great, but it wasn't the worst sickness I've ever had.
Sure.
So, but feeling okay. Like my voice is back to normal because I was pretty groggy.
Oh, sure.
I'm a little phlegmy maybe, but hopefully that doesn't bother anybody. Because I know some.
Tell me more, Jeff.
Well, because like stuff like that can come through on a microphone.
Sure. Sure.
So like you get that like mucusy noise. Sorry, everybody. So I apologize if that comes through, but
Okay.
But I'm feeling all right otherwise.
Well, so speaking of I don't know how this
bodily
is speaking
fluids.
of that, but so we just put out my birthday party conflict episode, which I think was pretty cool. I had a disclaimer at the beginning. I don't think that episode is going to appeal to everybody. But hey, if you don't like it, tune in next week, and here we are.
Right.
So, but it was it was fun to record that. I think it was a fun experiment. Maybe other people will take maybe I'll be a trendsetter. Other people will have audio guest books at their parties.
Sure.
Make podcasts out of it or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was sort of weird because when you were talking to me about it afterwards, you were like, it's some people. Who normally are, you talk normally with them all the time, but you get them in front of a microphone and they
clam up.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, I get that. But like at this point, I'm at least sitting here in front of you at this microphone, I'm the opposite because like I'm usually, fairly reserved. Yeah. Unless I get in like, a goofy mood or I'm just in a comfortable scenario or something. But like, once I sat down, I was like, "Oh yeah, I could do this. This is just what I do now." Like,
yeah, you and Steve, because I've recorded with both of you at least over the last year or more.
Like I could BS. I could just BS on this microphone for hours.
We had somebody on Twitter tell us they just listened to our dinner party conflict episode and they loved how committed we were to the bit. And I was like, it shocked both of us how easy it was for us to do that episode.
Once we got into it, it just kept the gravy just flowed out.
Yep.
And I just noticed Gabe is wearing a ramen noodle soup shirt. Like it's the ramen packaging.
It is a ramen. It looks like a ramen packet.
Yeah,
but it is.
But it's a shirt. It's a shirt. That's a great shirt.
And my wife has this exact same thing, but it's a hoodie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's pretty good.
That's really cool. I'm super jealous. Tell your wife I'm jealous.
I will. So just a couple little current events that are maybe relevant to our listener base. I've recently picked up Pokemon, the Pokemon Shield.
Right.
We may be doing a Patreon bonus episode about that.
Yes. Maybe.
I also picked up Neverwinter Nights.
Oh yeah. Have you tried it yet?
I've only played maybe like 20 minutes of it. And it's a little weird to control. There are no touch controls.
Right.
I am very surprised. I was expecting there to at least be an option.
Yeah.
But I mean, so far I'm only in the tutorial. I haven't really done much combat. I've read some reviews, and some people complain about the combat controls. You can't really like manually lock onto an enemy. If there were touch controls, you could just tap on the enemy and lock onto them.
Yeah.
Or the enemy or whatever it is you're locking onto, because you can lock onto a door and then interact with that door. So I'll have to see how well that plays as I go through it.
Right, yeah.
So far, again, I'm just in the tutorial. It hasn't been too hard. It's been intuitive enough. It looks like a fairly old game because it is a fairly old game, but I'm excited to try and play through some more of it. It's been a long time since I played that game.
Yeah. There's a fight at the end of like the first chapter that like I had to like, I don't know, I must have been like underpowered for it or something like that. But I had to restart over and over again because I had to get it just right because I was getting my butt kicked. So like I had to like, like try to like lead this one guy out so I can kill him one at a time or something like that. So like I feel like when you're trying to get that tactical with it might be kind of difficult dealing with the controls, but
we'll see.
Yeah. Cause I am interested in picking it up, but I did want to see your opinion on how it's controlling.
Sure. I will say it feels like a fairly sloppy port.
Okay.
The text is a really weird resolution. Like it doesn't line up with the pixels right. The text just looks weird.
Okay.
Also, all of the cinematics. The game doesn't have a ton of cinematics, but the ones that it does have, are stretched.
Huh.
Like
to wide.
They were standard definition and they have been stretched to fit the Switch's screen. Which is
why?
Did nobody load up this game?
Yeah.
To see how it looked? Like just put some letterboxes on.
Because there's like that intro cinematic where the guy fighting the Minotaur.
Yeah, that whole thing. It's stretched.
I watched that cinematic.
Yeah.
So much because before Neverwinter Nights came out originally, I remember just waiting for that game.
Yeah.
I feel like that is one of the earlier games that I waited for. I was like, oh, I want this game. Oh, I so want this game. When does it come out? Oh, it comes out next whatever. Dang it. Oh, I got to wait that long. And then the game comes out and my computer can't run it,
Oh no.
And but I had my dad get a new graphics card for the computer or something like that. Cause I remember the words, I remember my mother, when I was asking my dad if we could upgrade the computer, he's like, I don't know. My mom's like, he's been waiting for this damn game for so long. Just let him, just get it for him.
Sure. I started playing Neverwinter Nights when I had just started playing D&D with a group a guy from my high school. And then his friend who had already graduated, this guy by the name of Matt. And, after I played with them for a little while, I think that group kind of dissolved as campaigns tend to do. But then Matt, I was still friends with him. And so he would invite me over. I would go over to he was living with his parents at the time. We would go into their basement and then he had 2 computers down there. So we would play together, with a LAN or whatever.
Yeah.
And, he told me he knew the game pretty well. He told me hey, you just go do whatever you want. If you need help with something, let me know and I'll come and help you with it. And then, we were kind of just both off playing our own game in the same world.
Yeah, that was one of the cooler things about it. It's because the first segment of the game after the tutorials, basically there are 4 different paths that you can go on.
Yeah.
And you got to go and get each one at some point. But if you're playing online with people, you could just be I'm going to go take care of this one. You can go do whatever you want,
Yeah. Yeah. It was really cool.
And if you achieved one of the lines, you turn in the quest basically, and then there's this Lady Arabeth or whatever her name is announces to the city oh, the adventurers have brought back the Waterdavian creatures.
Yes.
And so you if you're in another dungeon somewhere, I think you can overhear that.
I think so.
And they're oh, okay, cool, they got that done.
Yeah, Matt would he would give me a warning. He'd be hey, by the way, I'm about to turn in this quest. So
just plug your ears.
Right.
Yeah. There was another tangent. There's a thing in one of the World of Warcraft expansions. Wrath of the Lich King.
Okay.
But it was one of the patches afterwards where there was a new raid out.
Okay.
Basically the main city hub for that expansion was this floating, wizard city that everybody both factions were in and stuff.
That wasn't Dalaran.
Was
it okay.
Yeah. And there was some quest that you would turn in when you finished a raid, one of the raids that would turn the sky black and all these stars and stuff would show up, and then this big this big beam of light would be shooting up in the air, and then a big booming voice would be oh, so and the adventurers saved the town and blah blah blah, and it would just everything would just stop for this whole thing, and but it would happen over and over again.
Because that is everybody's doing this quest.
Everybody's doing this quest, so you just the whole sky would turn black, and it's oh, sky's turning black again. All right.
That's kind of funny. All right, so Jeff, I want you to imagine that you are a bar wench in an upscale tavern.
Okay.
Or if you would like to, in this scenario, be male, you could be a mensch.
A bar mensch.
Now, I think we figured out that the male version of a wench is a swain.
Swain.
So you are either a bar wench or a bar swain, your choice.
Okay.
In an upscale tavern.
I still want to be a mensch.
Okay. Your boss, Mr. Stevens, looms over you in the corner. He doesn't mean to, but after all, his neck is several feet long. He's currently washing dirty mugs. He motions with one wing for you to clear the tables. You walk over and pick up a set of beer vessels. You ask Mr. Stevens where to put them. He points to the wall on which rests the flagons board.
Oh, that's good.
That was submitted by Dustin F on the Discord.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dustin.
That's a fine pun.
Yes. We've gotten a few Dragon's Horde intros on there, but I particularly liked that one. So anyway, today's magic item was also submitted by Dustin F. This time by email though. And the magic item that Dustin submitted is the manacles of the Mage Slave.
Oh.
Now, he actually submitted this like a month or two ago, but I accidentally put it in the wrong folder, so he had to bring that to my attention. So sorry. If you've submitted something to the show and you feel like we've forgotten about it, it might have happened.
It might have happened.
It might just be, we've got a long list of a lot of things, and
right.
Yeah,
I guess don't feel bad about resubmitting stuff. If
not at all.
Yeah.
Worst thing that happens is we don't use it a second time.
Yeah.
Oops. No, especially with like questions and stuff. I mean, we've got a lot of questions we've had for a long time, and it's more a matter of we're trying to find what will be good for a specific episode.
Sure, and we try to have things fit or in a theme sometimes.
Kind of. Also, sometimes we know a question has a good answer, we just don't have it yet. So we put it off until we've got several questions we're specifically holding off until we have like a really good response to it.
Yeah, it'll be like, this is a good question.
Yeah.
No idea how to answer it.
Exactly.
But we'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah. So anyway, the Manacles of the Mage Slave. A complete set is rare to find, as the control key is a closely guarded item. Housed inside an ebony box with mithril filigree, the set contains an intricate cut obsidian key with inset gems surrounding the crest of a forgotten house, a set of fine silk gloves, and a wide flat platinum torque inscribed with intricate arcane script of unknown content. A history check will reveal that this belonged to the elite guard of a defunct house of slavers. Detect magic reveals legendary level enchantment. This is a powerful magic item. Should a character pick up the command key, the torque and the gloves begin to hum. Speaking the true name of a mage within line of sight causes the gloves to fly out of the box onto the named mage. The torque stretches over the mouth and the gloves bind together. The mage is thus unable to cast any spell with verbal or somatic components.
Ooh.
The holder of the key can then speak a command to the captured mage. The arcane inscription flares, casting Gaius upon the mage, or Gesh. I think I said that was pronounced a few episodes ago when we talked about that. Anyway, the arcane inscription flares, casting Gesh upon the mage. The gloves and torque then unbind for the length of the commanded task. For example, casting a spell. Should the mage attempt to break free, the bindings reform. Finally, the key holder can speak a word of release, causing the gloves and torque to return to the ebony box. And then Dustin added, I'm not sure of the balance of this item. I'm sure tweaks need to be made. My main thought process was creating an interesting backstory, especially if an incomplete set is found, or if a character should put on the gloves or torque without knowing what it is.
Yeah.
So this is a magic item made to stop casters from casting spells.
Yeah, to subdue mages.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Like it's very, very well detailed, and I can see this being like going back to the like asylum adventure that we keep trying to run.
Sure.
It makes me think of like a mage's asylum or something. I don't know. It'd be like put in a very creepy setting.
Yeah, because the thing about casting spells in D&D is that generally speaking, it's very hard to stop someone from doing it.
Yeah.
If there is spells are very powerful, and so if you have a powerful spellcaster and you don't want them to be casting spells, it's hard to do so without some sort of a magic item specifically designed to do so. You know, you can stop them from moving their hands, but there are a lot of spells that don't have somatic components. You can gag them or whatever, but there are a lot of spells that don't have verbal components.
Yeah.
There are ways for casters to cast spells without either of those. So having a magic item that does stop them from doing at least ones with those components.
Right, yeah, most spells.
It's an important thing. And I like the flavor of this. I like how that it's like part of a house of slavers. It's not just someone who's putting someone in jail. They are taking someone captive and you know, putting them into forced labor or whatever.
Enslaving mages. Like that's interesting. Shoot, I didn't even, the way you put that's a plot hook right there. Yeah, that's like who would be so powerful as to need magic slaves.
Yeah. And I like how with this magic item, you can momentarily let them cast spells.
Right, yes.
The thing can come apart and then they can cast.
You're basically, you're setting up like a contingent, like, all right, I'm going to allow you to cast a spell because I need you to.
Yeah.
Like, cast move earth, slave. I don't know.
It's just crazy because you always think of like the mage as being the one that's like taking everybody captive or whatever. There was, this is a bit of a tangent, but there was a Dave Foley movie called The Wrong Guy. Dave Foley being a Canadian comedian. He was in Kids in the Hall, lots of other stuff. And one of the parts of this movie, he goes in, he's on the run, and he goes into this town where the bankers are in trouble because all these rich farmers are tearing down their banks and planting a fresh crop of corn. And
oh, jeez.
Anyway, so it's funny to see the tables turned a little bit, you know.
They turned that parking lot into a park.
I don't care if that bank's been in your family for generations.
Good.
To the broccoli fields, Jedediah. It's a good movie. You shouldn't go watch it. It's called The Wrong Guy. Anyway, so I think this is a very interesting item. It fills a very interesting role in a campaign world.
Yeah.
I do love the flavor that Dustin gave it, the backstory. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen anything quite like this. I feel like in a lot of cases, if you're going to have a magic item that prohibits spellcasting, it's probably going to be either like, oh, it just creates an anti-magic field, or oh, it just creates a field of silence and then they can't speak.
Right.
You know.
But this is like, it's just a magic item that physically stops them from doing it.
But also those, they stop them from doing it, but all the time. And like a field of silence, how do you communicate with them what you need them to do?
Right.
Because you could sign language or something. But if I really, really like the little detail on this, that you can undo it for a moment so they can cast spells, and then they come back together.
I just imagine a silly scenario where, like, I don't know, like this snarky bard or rogue or something accidentally gets the mask basically put on their face, and like it keeps them from talking.
Sure.
But then like the paladin knows the command to let them speak or whatever.
Yeah.
So like it's just like they only found the one part and now it's stuck on the rogue's face, but the paladin found a sheet with the command word on it, so he can shut the rogue up whenever he wants to or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's definitely some fun shenanigans that can be had with encountering this sort of an item. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Good job, Dustin.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of work went into this clearly, and I think it's really cool.
Cool.
So I guess that'll do it for the Dragon's Horde. Jeff, if anybody wanted to submit magic items for the Dragon's Horde, or questions for us to discuss, or stories for the Funeral Pyre, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com or join us on our Interparty Discord at bit.ly/interpartydiscord.
That's correct. And we, a couple episodes ago, I think we joked about having, instead of the Funeral Pyre, the retirement plan or something.
Right, yeah.
I think we've gotten a submission or two for that on the Discord.
Cool.
So,
yeah, because I mean, not... Because that is a cool idea, like knowing what a character does after the adventure.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Now I have to come up with an intro for the retirement plan. All right. So before we go any further, Jeff, we have a giveaway.
Oh, gosh,
today.
we do.
Yes, we do. We are giving away a copy of Chapel on the Cliffs, courtesy of Goblinstone. Chapel on the Cliffs is a great low-level 5th edition adventure, once again from Goblinstone. Goblinstone is a group of creators based in the UK, and they've created lots of great adventures, lots of award-winning stuff, and Chapel on the Cliffs being one of those. So, Jeff, who is our winner of this great adventure today?
Today's winner is Tori R.
Winner. Gobble, gobble, gobble. Yes, congratulations, Tori R. You should be getting that in your email within the next few days. If you haven't gotten it in about a week, let us know. It might be in your spam folder. They might be running a bit late, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, let us know if you haven't gotten that. And be sure to leave Goblinstone a review. I'm sure they can take your advice and then try to use some of what you have to say in future adventures and try and make their future adventures better.
Yeah.
And then I also want to thank our wonderful patrons. We have a Patreon campaign at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict, where we've got various rewards on there for anybody who wants to pledge a certain amount of money per month to help keep the show running. We've got outtakes. I've got fantasy fiction I've written. I'm making some of those into audio format so you can listen to them as well. We've also got a monthly Roll20 game. We keep hitting various obstacles as the months go on.
Yeah.
But, hey, whatever.
Look, I feel like just this part of the year.
Yeah.
And the last few months of the year.
It's the holidays. I mean, everybody's got stuff going on. So,
right.
Hey, as long as everybody's still having a good time and still happy with donating to the Patreon. I'm happy. Mm-hmm. So anyway, yeah, we've got some cool stuff on there. If you feel like donating to the show, you can help make the show better and get some cool stuff in return. So go check out the rewards, see if anything appeals to you, and if so, thank you. And of course, thank you to everybody who has donated so far. You guys are awesome. And then just one more quick thing. Check out the other podcasts on the Crit Nation Fellowship. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. Justin, Ian, and Brandon create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. We've also got Brute Force and Ignorance, which is an actual play on the network. There's some great guys, some of which are in the UK, some are in America. So the only cross-Atlantic actual play, I think, is how they've said. So check them out. Also check out D&D Character Lab. They're not making any episodes anymore, but they still got some great stuff out there you can go listen to. So check that out. Enough of that. You want to go ahead and get into some questions, Jeff?
Sure. Our first question comes from David E. on Discord. How do you feel about wild magic zones? Should a wild magic zone affect divine casters or just arcane casters? And can you think of other kinds of wild zones that could have different effects?
Yeah. So sometimes we get questions that are just kind of like, hey, what are some cool ideas?
Right,
stuff.
sure.
And that's kind of how I'm treating this one. I think there's a lot of cool potential with this one.
Yeah. Well, off the bat, the first part of the question, the middle part of the question, I guess, is should they affect, should something that is a wild magic zone, should that affect divine casting as well as arcane casting? Because when you think wild magic, you think of like a wild sorcerer, like a wild mage or a wild, or is it just wild sorcerer in 5th edition? I can't remember.
Think so, yeah.
Where it is mostly for in arcane magics that you see this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you set it up with the intent of it just sort of being like magic is just wild here,
sure,
divine would fall under that too.
Yeah. Well, if we could, let's take just a brief moment and say what maybe someone doesn't know what a wild magic zone is.
Yeah.
So I always thought of wild magic zones as being something specific to Faerun, to the Forgotten Realms, for a long time. I don't think that's the case anymore. I'm pretty sure they're just in the 5th edition Dungeon Master's Guide. So a wild magic zone it's kind of like a phenomenon that you can encounter in your D&D game that the DM will decide is somewhere in the world, and you might run into it, where it is just kind of an area where magic functions weird. Now, I believe that there are probably some specific mechanics to it. There's probably a chart somewhere you roll to see, when you cast a spell, it becomes a fireball instead, or whenever you cast a spell, you gain hit points or something. There's probably somewhere. I'm not going to look it up right now, but generally speaking, it's just kind of an area of the world or the multiverse or whatever where the connection to magic is altered in some way and it is unpredictable. When you cast spells, they do things you are not expecting them to do. Sometimes magic might just happen spontaneously.
Right.
It's pretty much, I think it's pretty much the DM can use it for whatever the heck they want. There are probably charts you can roll on, but generally speaking, the Dungeon Master can do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
So the question here is, how do you feel about them? Should they affect divine magic as well as arcane magic? And then also, can you think of other kinds of zones that would affect maybe things other than magic?
Right.
That's kind of the part of the question I'm most excited to talk about.
Sure.
We'll save that for the end. So just general thoughts. What do you think of wild magic zones?
I like the idea, like, because I kind of like the idea of sort of like this natural phenomenon thing where it's, I don't know, like, it makes me think of something like a Star Trek episode where they come across like this weird nebula or whatever. They fly
this anomaly.
This anomaly that they fly through. It's like, oh, it's just a routine whatever. We're gonna scan it and just go on about our way.
Yeah,
Captain, deck 3's disappeared. What?
So okay, small tangent. I just started watching Star Trek Voyager.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
because I've been watching Deep Space Nine because I'm listening to a podcast that's been going. It went through all of TNG. It's going through all of Deep Space Nine, and they're gonna start doing Voyager eventually. I decided to start watching Voyager.
Sure,
and it's really good.
Yeah, it's got some not so great episodes, and like they kind of lean on holodeck stuff.
Yeah, there have been several holodeck episodes in just the first 2 seasons.
Yeah,
so
they
far.
lean on that, and then they lean on like temporal stuff later on. Yeah. But for the most part, it's a good show. Like it's and for Skylar and I, it's very comforting. We just put it on all the time. So.
Sure, it definitely has a very strong premise, and the first season is by far the strongest first season of any Star Trek series that I've seen so far.
Yeah, you get pretty emotionally invested in the characters too, because they're on this big journey. They're like, well, this is our lives now. They
can't just go back to Starfleet and restock or whatever.
Yeah.
They have to overcome their problems.
Yeah. And like some of the episodes, like it gets pretty interesting on how they're like what they have to do to adjust, So like it's a good show.
But anyway, I was thinking because there was an episode where like the layout of the ship kept changing. They would be like, okay, we're going to go from engineering to the bridge, but then they would go through a door and suddenly they're like in somebody's quarters.
Right, yeah.
And then like they would try to go back to where they just came from and oh no, now they're in the kitchen or something.
Yep.
And I think you really hit the nail on the head. It feels like a Star Trek thing.
Right. It's just like some spatial anomaly or some temporal
flux.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. I like the idea of wild magic zones. However, I really think it's a matter of how well it is implemented, as with a lot of things.
Right.
How well it's implemented into the adventure.
Yeah. I feel like you're in danger of going to like the deck of many things sort of thing, because it's a random roll, and like a lot of the wild magic like charts usually involve a couple things that are just like, what?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. It might depend from edition to edition, but there are examples of like you create you cast a spell and you roll the chart to see the wild effect, and it's like you create a dead magic zone for so many miles or whatever.
That's another thing that interests me. A dead magic zone is similarly a zone where just magic doesn't work.
Right.
And that is a terrifying concept to me. And every time I've encountered one in a game, that's been something that I've been like, guys, I don't know if we should go through this. Even when I wasn't a caster, I'm still like, guys, I know I'm a barbarian, but like, maybe go around this.
Yeah. Well, because think of real life. If just suddenly there was just a pocket of town that just could not have electricity.
Yeah.
Just electricity just can't exist in this zone.
That would be so
like,
weird.
What?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Huh?
Well, save that. That's an idea for the end here.
Sure.
So, I like wild magic zones, but I think that if you are going to implement, if you're going to implement one in your game, I would actually recommend, instead of doing just, you roll on a chart or something, I would actually kind of choose a bunch of specific effects.
Yeah.
Like whenever a player casts a fire spell, it comes out as an ice spell. Or whenever a player casts a healing spell, the nearest creature grows in size or something.
Sure.
I don't know.
So yeah, you set up the nature of the zone itself beforehand.
Sure. You set the rules.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the Star Trek examples or whatever.
Right.
it's not just, oh, the writer just rolled a die and then that's
Right,
what the next scene was. The writer had a specific scene in mind, so that's how it went.
Right. It's so that the characters in the show could figure it out.
Sure.
Figure out how to solve it, how to get out of it. So like in the case of your adventure, like it would start off going off like all this random stuff is happening until they realize, okay, though there is sort of a pattern to it. We just got to kind of figure it out. So like I'm shooting, like when I cast Fireball, it actually comes out as Lightning Bolt. When I try to cast Magic Missile, it comes out as Cure Light Wounds or something.
Sure.
So like you got to try and find out, okay, I got to cast this to do this. I got to cast that to do that. Or like, make it so like all the wizards are casting cleric spells or something,
Sure.
You like switch the roles up that way. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Now, I mean, maybe you might be thinking to yourself, oh, but then that doesn't feel wild, if they all have like prescribed rules.
If it's not random, it's not wild.
I guess I just think that if it's really random, if it's truly random, it's less. It is less likely to be a fun experience and more just like, well, now what happens?
Right.
I would much rather have a moment. Sorry to interrupt. I would much rather have a moment where the players are like, oh shoot, I know how to use this to get to where we want to go.
Sure.
When I cast Summon Monster last time, it turned Joe into a ladder. Shoot, let's do that. Turn him into a ladder. We'll climb up on top of that thing.
Well, no, I don't want to be a ladder. No.
Exactly.
Dang it. Dang it, Joe's got to be a ladder again. Yeah, because again, with the deck of many things, like the randomness, like it could be this like crazy cool thing, or it could be just something lame.
Yeah.
And like if you're rolling, it's a chance that like every time you roll, it's something lame.
Sure.
Oh, your skin turns purple.
Oh, cool.
Cool. All right. That sure is wacky. But then again, like, it's like a black hole appears and sucks everything.
Oh no, you rolled double zeros. The world is destroyed.
Right.
I mean,
the sun goes supernova.
Not that I think that that's something that's going to happen in a wild magic zone, but
right,
I mean, I don't know. So I like the idea of them. I think that, me personally, I would probably try to choose some rules ahead of time and then try to even if the rules are so complex the players would never realize that they are rules. They might think that it is completely random. I personally would just rather know what is going to happen before it happens, I guess, as the dungeon master.
Or maybe even just like if it's like a long, like a list that you're rolling on, maybe like refine it down to the few things that you want to have.
Sure.
Know? So like there is some randomness to it, but at least it's not gonna end your campaign or be too boring. You can pick the ones you like that you feel like make the most sense for how you want to play it.
Yeah. So moving on to the second part of the question, should a wild magic zone affect divine casters or just arcane casters? Now, when David E asked this question, I think he was asking, does it affect divine casters? Oh, and I'm pretty sure by the book, yes, it does. By the book, magic is magic. Right. Yes, you might be getting your spells from a god or a cause, or you might be getting your spells from, just the magic in your blood or whatever. But I think like in most campaigns, they are one and the same. No matter where you're getting them from, they are still both affected by dispel magic. Sure. They're both still affected by an anti-magic field. Yeah. You can change that, of course. You can decide that in your campaign, divine magic is fundamentally different than arcane magic. That could be cool. Might require a little bit of work to make sure everything fits the way that it should, but that could work. Just make sure that's something you get across to your players. Right, yeah. But should it? How would you feel if there was a field of wild magic that only messed with arcane magic?
I think that'd be interesting. I mean, like, I'm not against that at all, because like that's one way to kind of tweak the field to make it interesting, to make it so that like the players have to kind of like adjust. Yeah. So it's like, okay, all arcane magic doesn't work here, but all divine magic does. Maybe you don't have any like purely divine casters, but like, I don't know, you might have like a couple divine scrolls on you or something, I don't know. Like I think that'd be really interesting. Plus like it kind of plays into more like, because you're defining the differences between divine and arcane, I think that makes it more interesting. Like that's something one of your players can kind of read into. Maybe like maybe their character will start going down a path of like, okay, trying to figure out like what are the differences. Like maybe they'll multi-class because of it.
Sure. Yeah. I think the role-playing implications of arcane and divine magic being different, there's a lot there. There's definitely, especially if you realize that they are different because one is affected by this field and the other isn't.
Because like really, you could have a player who really wants to be like the party's like main caster, and then you throw in these zones that sometimes get rid of arcane magic, sometimes get rid of divine magic, and it's like, well, if I want to be the caster, I want to make sure I can cast spells all the time. I'm going to multi-class into, if I'm arcane, I want to multi-class into divine just so I can make sure no matter what I can, be casting something.
Yeah. If so I ever since 5th edition, I haven't really like played with or encountered many players that have done like a Mystic Theurge type character.
Sure.
For anybody not familiar, Mystic Theurge was the name of a prestige class in 3rd edition and 3.5 where you leveled up in both cleric and wizard. Yeah. So like you in order to qualify, you had to have both cleric levels and wizard levels, or I guess like druid and sorcerer or whatever.
I think it was just an arcane caster and a divine caster, and then it would like you definitely wouldn't have like max spell slots in both, but by the end you would have more than if you just did like one of each, so every other level.
So you didn't get the benefits of both classes, but you got spells from both classes.
Yeah.
And so it was a really interesting way to play a caster. Now, if there were a character in your group that was like that, I think it'd be really interesting to have an encounter or have an adventure where, well, shoot, I can use my cleric spells that will definitely work, or I really need to blow something up, but I don't know 100% if it's going to blow something up or freeze everything or whatever. Like if half of your character's abilities are usable and the other half are kind of wild card.
Sure.
I think that could be really interesting.
Yeah.
Then again, the point I was trying to make is that I haven't really played with many people or heard of many people in this edition that do that. That would be an interesting archetype, though, if they made one of those for cleric or wizard or something like that. If there was a specialization, I don't know. Anyway, so as far as should they, I personally think they should, because I do subscribe to all magic being the same.
Right.
Now, there is, of course, with psionics, in the psionics handbook in previous editions,
right,
there's always been a little sidebar saying the game treats psionics as magic. Like if you have dispel magic or whatever, it affects psionics too. But there's instructions on if you want it to not be, if you want them to be separate,
right,
here's how you do it. You put in a dispel psionics spell or whatever, and so on and so on. So you could look at that as a model for how to make it so that arcane magic and divine magic are different. You might want to implement a magic spell that is dispel arcane magic, dispel divine magic.
Right, yeah.
Maybe in a divine anti-magic field or whatever. So a little bit of work, I think, needs to be done, again, to make everything fit together well. But that's a decision you should make pretty early on, I think.
Because I could see, there's... is it just anti-magic shell? Is that like a spell or something? Or
there is an 8th level spell, an 8th level cleric and wizard spell that creates a 10-foot radius anti-magic field around you.
Gotcha.
And then there was also an environmental, just the DM might say you just find an anti-magic field.
Yeah. Now I'm wondering if you were to say like make spells that are like basically the same, but one's for specifically arcane spells, one's for specifically divine spells.
Yeah.
Would you consider that? Would you put that at a higher slot level or a lower level?
That's a tough one, Jeff.
Well, because I would say if it's like a wizard spell that is anti-divine, that would be like a higher level, because you'd be able to use that to your advantage. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna be able to cast spells, but any divine can't cast spells. Haha. But at the same time, it's like, well, anti-magic field just does everything.
Yeah.
But that could be bad and good.
It's tough because you can't necessarily judge the power of a spell based on how one person is using it.
Right.
If you're in an ice cavern, you can't be like, oh, well, fireball should be a 5th level spell because it's going to melt everything. I mean, yes, that's true, but I don't know. I would be tempted to make it one level lower, but I don't know. I would have to test that out.
Yeah, maybe make it like smaller in size or duration or something like that as well, just to kind of
Well,
so just,
I don't know. I was gonna say make it the same level, but make it bigger.
Okay, it's like a bigger field. Yeah,
so like because I do think it is less powerful. I think that yes, it has applications that could make it stronger, but I think base it is less powerful. Maybe make it a little bigger and make it the same level. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something
that needs testing for sure.
Definitely. Because like there was we've dealt with in the past in previous editions when making magic items, there was you could give yourself a limitation that only you could use it.
Right.
And according to the book, that meant that it was less expensive.
Right.
Even though a lot of people viewed that as, oh shoot, so it also has a built-in security system.
Right. Yeah.
And I understand that viewpoint, but it is a limiting factor because you can't just give it to your buddy and have your buddy use it.
Right. Yeah. If you're passed out, no one's ever going to be, they can't use that item just because you're.
And there was a time I was running a game where Steve had a ring of invisibility that only he could use, and he got it really cheap because of that. And then there was a point where he wanted to use it on someone else. He wanted to give it to someone else to use, but that we realized, no, you can't do that. That's the whole point of the limitation.
Right. Yeah.
So anyway, I think that's a discussion for a different day, whether anti-magic field would be lower or higher level. Just as far as whether it should work on both, I think it should work on both.
Yeah.
But you could make it work on just one.
Yeah, unless you want it to be different, I feel like it should just for ease, to make it everything easier. Like all magic is just magic. You know, it just makes things so simple.
Yeah. And then I guess the last part of the question is, can you think of other kinds of wild zones that could have different effects? You said, what if there's an area where electricity just doesn't work?
Right. Or so like specific elements don't work, you know, or like elementals of that nature like would just like destroy themselves if they fell into that field or something like that.
Yeah.
I actually just thought of one when we were talking earlier was like an echo chamber sort of thing.
Okay.
But like a magic echo chamber. So like there's a bunch of people in this field and a spellcaster casts fireball. Sure. And then like a couple rounds later that same fireball spell happens again or something. Or maybe like it would, that energy would travel into somebody else and somebody else would suddenly be able to cast fireball for, you know, so if you cast a spell, you'd be risking having somebody else cast that same spell later if they wanted to or something like that. Okay.
Well, so you just made me think of something that I think is a great idea. The party goes into a dungeon or whatever, and then they notice that, like something feels weird. And they realize after an encounter starts that they have stepped into a delayed magic zone.
Oh, okay.
Every time you cast a spell, it goes into effect a round later.
Sure, yeah. That's cool.
That could be real, especially because if you built an encounter around it, that could be really interesting. You encounter like an enemy caster and they know how it works. You don't. So you show up and then you see one of them and it like points at the fighter or something and then nothing happens. And then the next round, like a lightning bolt goes off and then hits the fighter and whoever has whatever.
Right.
I think that's really cool.
That's interesting.
That's got some potential right there. What if there was like a wild, I'm trying to think of how to word this, a wild class zone where when you go into this thing, like everybody's class gets the DM just hands you a sheet with your stats. It will require a lot of work ahead of time on the DM's part. Hands you a sheet with your class or your stats, but a different class.
Yeah. Yeah. Or I mean, like it could be like I go and attack and the DM goes, okay, you cast magic missile, you know?
Okay. Okay.
You just like, you tell the DM what you want to do and they just like decide something else a different class would do and it just happens.
I like the idea of wild zones that they're not affecting magic. They're affecting physical things.
Yeah. Like wild material zones where like, oh shoot, my sword's made out of mud. Like what happened?
Or wild weapon zone where your weapons just become other weapons.
They just become
every round. It's a different weapon.
They just become the same weapon, but it's on the end of a spiked chain.
Sure.
The exotic weapon zone.
Oh my goodness, the exotic weapon zone. Jeff, all right, high five. You got it. Got it in one. All right. That's ridiculous. Because I think I posted in the Discord when this was asked, like, what would a wild science zone look like, or a zone where science doesn't work?
Yeah, or like if the laws of thermodynamics just went crazy in this one zone.
Yeah, you walk in with like you have a wheel and you put a ball in it and it spins and it just keeps getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster.
It's a perpetual
motion machine. Yeah.
I was obsessed with those for a while. Yeah. I was like, oh my god.
Now, I think every science-minded kid at some point was like, oh, but what if you did this? Yeah. Surely it would work.
No, I heard there's a guy who's got one working in his basement somewhere.
Yeah. Every few years, there's like somebody claims they've invented a perpetual motion machine. Right. Always. I mean, it would be interesting, depending on how granular you want to get with the physics of your world, if there was stuff where like, oh yeah, certain chemical reactions just don't work here.
Right.
Maybe limiting, maybe including or not including biological ones in your own body. Maybe those are shielded or something. But
yeah.
You go to light a fire, but it like freezes instead or something.
Or like regeneration zone, but in the way that kind of like a troll does it, where like there's like that one type of troll that like grows like extra limbs. Or I think all trolls have that to a
I think because it's like a dire troll or something. I think it is just a troll that has lived too long.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, you know, like whenever they lose a limb, there's a chance that like 2 limbs grow instead.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. But like everybody has it, you know. So like whenever you take damage, you have a chance to like, you know, grow another limb back or something, or like maybe like another you grows out of you or something. Like just some weird like sci-fi stuff you could throw in there.
If there was like maybe like a supercharged zone or something where like all of your magic is like maximized, or like enlarged or something like that. I really because you were just saying about the regeneration zone, it made me think of that mode in Overwatch where everybody has like 10 times the health and all your abilities cooldown, your cooldowns. Mayhem, there you go. Mayhem zone, exactly. So just like stuff it's guaranteed to create ridiculous battles that go on forever.
That's actually a really good mayhem zone where like everybody has high regeneration or their like hit points get like quadrupled or something.
Yeah.
They have unlimited spell slots, or like they get 2 actions, 3 bonus actions.
Oh geez, the bonus action zone where everybody gets an extra bonus action every round.
Yes, the bonus action zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. Like so
there's a lot of potential with just giving just weird zones.
The zone.
The zone.
Where every round it's a different zone.
Oh my goodness.
So the first round everyone gets 2 action. Then the next round everyone gets 4 bonus actions but nothing else.
Yeah. All right, I think we figured out the zone.
Zone.
That is what you guys need to put in your games.
Yeah. It's just a random effect to the mechanics of the game every round while in this zone.
Sure.
And then one round is the player, the characters play you.
One more thing on topic, and then I think we'll move on.
Okay.
In Eberron, there are what are they called?
There's the morning.
Well, there is the morning. That's where after night is over. Sorry, the morning. That's the Morn land is a land where like healing doesn't work, and because some weird random like magical catastrophe happened. But no, what I was saying was they are the way that Eberron is set up with the planes.
Oh right, yeah.
At different times, the planes are closer to
yes
Eberron than other times.
So like the city, the Sharn City of Towers is closely tied to the air.
I think it's called like a manifest zone or something. Basically, there's certain parts of the world that at all times are considered to be closer to whatever plane.
Yeah.
So Sharn City of Towers was built in a place where it is closer to the plane of air.
Yep.
Therefore, magic that makes things lighter or makes things fly is a lot easier to cast. As a result, it was very easy to make a city that is very, very vertical because they were able to use magic to make things
Yeah.
lighter, more structurally sound, and so on.
They like hand out slow fall tablets everywhere. They're like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
just like, here, take a dozen of them.
Yeah, so if you fall off a thing, it's just in your pocket. It automatically activates and,
Right, yep.
and lets you feather fall. Similarly, you could have zones that are connected to other planes. Even if you're not in Eberron, you could throw it into whatever plane you're in. There could be an area where just random fires start, or an area where it's just you walk into the city and suddenly everything is underwater or something. Like you can't see it until you're in the zone or something.
Yeah.
But once you're in there, like you're just in a giant bubble of water or something. So I don't know. I think that planar zones could be really cool. I'm always a big fan of the planes. I think that could be a cool way to do it. And there's already kind of a model for that because Eberron does exactly that.
Right.
So yeah, go use some zones, everybody.
The zone.
The zone. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our regular questions for today, but we do still have our social media questions. Our last social media question was, do you use homemade maps? If so, what is your process for making them? Do you recall if you had an answer?
I have a few like map making tools and stuff that I've played around with, but not much. Like I haven't really used much, in an actual game.
Yeah, I'm terrible at making maps with or without map making software. I usually I'll flip open a pre-written module, find a map that looks good, and then use that.
Sure.
Generally speaking.
I like the thing where you like roll the dice. You roll the dice on the page and then trace around it to make like a little
that works
continent map or something like that.
Yeah,
I like stuff like that. Those little like world building trick things.
Sure.
Those are fun.
Over on Facebook, Sean M says, I'll use a battle map to draw out my dungeons. I'll also use it to convey general layouts for more theater of the mind scenarios. I've used Incarnate, which is, that's a program a lot of people reference on here. I've used Incarnate and a similar one for purchase on Steam. I bought a 3D printer and have started to print things, but I've noticed I'm still likely to need to draw many maps until I flesh out the printed collection.
Right.
And I've been in a feud with my 3D printers for a while, but that is something I would still like to do.
Yeah.
Once I start actually playing again or running a game again, I would love to make physical dungeons with 3D printed stuff. I think that could be really cool.
Yeah.
Andrew H says, I have using incarnate.com for both world and regional maps. My players have really appreciated them.
Yeah. Yeah. I've seen Incarnate, like I haven't used it myself, but I've watched some like tutorial videos and stuff on it, and I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, and for anybody who is not familiar, it is the word incarnate or incarnate with a K instead of a C.
Yeah, it's Incarnate, right?
Oh yeah, Incarnate.
Incarnate.
However you want to pronounce that. Yeah. Isla M on Facebook. I don't think this person has ever posted anything on Facebook before, so glad to have you. Isla says, I do use homemade maps. I come from a painting and design background, so I feel very confident in my random shape abilities. So I slap one of those down, then figure out the simple topography of mountains, plains, and forests. Rivers only flow via the quickest route. With one exception, I made my main campaign where there is a town called Backturn because it is right next to where the river turns back on itself. I use a digital drawing program called Procreate and make brushes to do the hard repetitive work for me, like mountains and trees. But I always make sure to break up my brush cheat mountains with specific named mountains. Because I made the brush assets myself, essentially making randomized stamps of mountains or trees, I can easily add or alter the stamped assets without the style looking mismatched. That's a really cool idea if you are going to be doing this on some sort of thing. Use stuff that you can easily copy paste, but also put in some unique stuff here and there.
I'm actually proud of myself for knowing everything that was just said.
Okay.
Like I was like, yeah, I know exactly what she's talking about.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you make that like, cause there are some of the maps stuff that I've used. They like, a guy posted a file with just a bunch of like mountain stamps. Okay. And I was like, oh yeah, these are great. Like they're just like little black and white so that it knows, the pattern to draw the mountain in or whatever. And it's really great.
Well, there you go. And then Isla or Ila, I hope I'm pronouncing that somewhat right. In the campaign I'm running now, the main continent was split a few millennia ago. So I started with the full map, then split and moved the part that was split off. And I feel it is worth mentioning, I use a lot of name generators to help me name stuff and try to keep my players from referring to the Chicago region or New England coast for the sake of immersion. Naming the big noteworthy stuff in the beginning has saved me loads of time.
Yeah.
And I just remembered when I ran our Keepers of the List campaign a long time ago, I made a little like regional map, and I think I did it in Paint. And I think I made a little mountain, and then I just copied and pasted it all over the place. I think that's kind of what I did. So anyway, so I'm realizing now I have sort of done some of this. But again, I'm not good at it. I didn't have anybody on Twitter. On Reddit, we just got a couple. Pruno says, I used Roll20 and also Pyromancer to make my own maps. But the best rule of D&D is to steal everything, period. I get maps from Reddit D&D maps, save them and drop them into Roll20, fill in the gaps from there, and focus on the other details for the upcoming session.
Sure.
Hey, everybody does it.
Right.
As long as you're not trying to make money off of it, steal whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Scottish Unicorn Clan says, drawing them out is my preferred method for city, battle, and simple country maps, but I'll sometimes use online programs for anything bigger like continents. With me, I just kind of took North America and made it backwards. I think is what I did.
Steal everything.
Steal everything, exactly. And over on Discord, eThompson03 says, we tend to use a laminated grid hexagon board. Then we use dry erase markers to draw maps. It's cheaper and less effort than making nice maps, but also lets them use their own imagination for what the terrain or scenery looks like. Damien the DM says, not handmade, but I do make maps using Dungeon Fog and print them out for use at the table. And then Damien has several pictures that he's done.
I don't know if that's the one. There's one I have on Steam that this one reminds me of, and it basically is like, it's just like a little grid. You can kind of, it's just like a flat map thing.
Yeah.
And the way that it's formatted is it's put into like printable pages.
Okay.
So like when you want to expand the map, you expand it in an 8.5 by 11.
Oh, okay.
Fashion, so that like when you're creating the maps, all you got to do is just print them out on a regular printer and then just tape them together.
Jeff, was it you or Steve that found there was like a program that I think it was like in beta or Kickstarter phase or something?
Tailspire.
Tailspire. I'll put that in the show notes. That was, can you give a good description of what that was?
Well, yeah. So it's like, it was a 3D, like, it's basically a 3D
like a virtual tabletop.
Yeah, it's a virtual tabletop, but it's where you could make 3D environments and stuff like that, and it, they're intending it on being like fully playable, and like you roll dice and move miniatures around.
Oh, and you would like have actual dice in the tabletop that would roll, and you could see it roll and land on whatever number.
And like you can control what players see and stuff. So like there are some like virtual tabletop stuff out there, but from what I understand, Tailspire, it's still in very early development, and like they had a Kickstarter that I think finished a while back.
Yeah.
But the guys the developers who are making it were really into making mods for Neverwinter Nights.
Okay.
And like thinking back on it, like I do remember there being like mods and stuff for Neverwinter Nights that were pretty dang good.
Yeah.
So like, and like Neverwinter Nights was probably the most fun I had, like trying to make my own adventures in games like that. So like I'm keeping an eye on it. Like I check in on it every once in a while. Like, it's small team, progress slow. It's a Kickstarter thing. It just, it's going to take some time, but it looks very promising. So
cool.
That's,
Well, yeah, like I said, I'll put that in the show notes and keep an eye on it.
It's definitely worth keeping an eye on for sure.
Floofy Shoob says, most of the games I'm in are Theater of the Mind, so at most we might be using Google Maps or a dry erase board if folks need a little help keeping track of the layout. And Jason E says, I have one of those Chessex 4x3 foot wet erase mats, and I draw the dungeon in different colors. And I have one of these as well. I've used it for many years.
Yeah.
And then he adds, you can also see vague shadows of past adventures. And that is one thing that I do love about stuff like that, is you can always like see, oh man, I remember when we were in this whatever. I remember there was a time Chris was over.
Dang.
And because it was on my mat that he was using, he drew something. He was running a game, and at some point, one of the NPCs had a ring that, like, as I think we killed the NPC, and then the ring fell off her finger, and then he described the ring as when it hit the ground, it turned into a little demon and ran off. and he drew a picture of it, and he drew it in red. For anybody who's used one of these Chessex mats, you know that red does not come off very well.
Sure.
And so for years, there was this little tiny ring demon on the edge of the map.
I know that demon because
Yes.
we use that map all the time. That mat all the time, and I do remember like the faded. It was sort of like an orangey color because that's what was like what was left over. But it's just like what is this little creature here?
Yep. No, that was a. I don't think we ever figured out what. We never followed up on that. It never came up again. So yeah, that's definitely a good method that Jason uses. And the beverage tea says, I have tried a few methods, including handwritten on graph paper and through the tedious process of doing the same on Google Docs.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, good old graph paper. I had a pad of graph paper that like I tore through that thing. I used to just draw on it all the time because graph paper was just, I don't know. Graph paper is just more fun to draw on because you got it's an easier way to keep things symmetrical, I guess.
Sure. Just a couple more. Bill IVC says, I run online mostly, so do theater of the mind. Even so, I will often look up maps online to use as reference or inspiration. For many specific purposes, I will draw my own. For in-person games, I just picked up a book of maps on Kickstarter, and I'm working on terrain for encounters.
Huh.
There you go.
Yeah, wow, a map book. Okay. Yeah, people just putting out books of maps and stuff.
Yeah. People put them on Reddit all the time.
Yeah. Huh.
Peace Story Pancake says, the first thing I did for our homebrew game was make a world map. Back then, I just used graph paper and started drawing, and that's what we used at the beginning. Later, I didn't like how it looked, so I retraced it on blank paper.
Yeah.
And then she put a picture of that. Deborah Soar says, so I use whatever's at my disposal, but usually I draw one on one of those rubber wet erase mats. Planning the maps, however, there is nothing better than basic graphing paper.
Yeah.
And New York Tater says, cartography has been a bit of an interest of mine, but I never really dug into it serious enough. I've been working on a few things and created a map using PowerPoint and then redrawing it in GIMP to get just the initial line art.
GIMP. Haven't heard of that in a while.
Yeah. I have that on my computer. I use that for back when it was the Keepers of the List campaign. I made a bar flyer for you guys.
Oh,
and
I
made it through GIMP because that was the only photo software I had that was not Paint.
Sure.
So anyway, I think that's all of the responses for that one. But next week's social media question is, if you could play through an RPG based on the book of your choice, what would it be? I think we've talked about I think we've had this question in a similar format before, but I don't think it's ever been books.
I don't know. I see. Like I have not read a ton of books.
Mm-hmm.
I guess like the easiest answer for me would just be the Harry Potter, but there is Harry Potter tabletop games, like they exist.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
I'm sure somebody has done it. There isn't an official one though, I think.
Maybe not. But yeah, it's out there for sure.
Yeah.
Like that's easily doable. I could see that could be potentially kind of fun.
Yeah.
I don't know if
I would probably say Harry Potter as well.
Yeah, like, and that the Harry Potter one, like if it's during like the school year stuff, like I feel like that could be more. It feels like it could be more casual.
Sure. I mean, everybody knows that when the school year is going on, you just wait around until the end of the year, and then Voldemort shows up.
Right? Yeah. And then some crazy stuff happens. Harry Potter does some crazy stuff.
Yep.
So, it could be kind of fun though. I feel like it's like lower stakes.
Sure.
Adventure because your kid's in a school or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
similarly, I think the Percy Jackson series could lend itself well to a tabletop game where your class is kind of based off of whoever your character's divine parent is.
Right. Yeah.
And then, you go from there. I recently finished reading a graphic novel series called Lock and Key.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which I guess is getting a Netflix series sometime soon.
Cool.
Which hopefully is going to be really good. And that is amazing. And I would love to play through a tabletop RPG based on that. It's like just a modern day. These kids are in this weird old house where they find all these keys that do supernatural things. And I don't know. I just think that sort of thing could be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can include graphic novels if anybody is curious or not.
Yeah. I feel like that's fair.
Close enough, All right. Well, I think that'll do it for our questions for today. But before we close out, I think we should let's relax. Let's take a deep breath. Let's think of those who have come before us and made the world a better place for us as we toss another log onto the funeral pyre. Today's funeral pyre story was submitted by Danny C. via email, and the story is titled Zenward Melric's Final Choice.
Oh, okay.
Zenward the Warlock was known for his ability to be as far away from danger as possible whenever an encounter started, preferring to shoot eldritch blasts from afar instead of getting into the mess of a fight with his comrades. However, when the party was ambushed mid-combat by a pair of highly trained assassins that had been tracking the group, Zenward ignored the demanding voice of his patron as it ordered him to flee, and instead used his final moments defending his friends, and, as a result, found himself subject to the main brunt of the vicious attack.
Ooh.
While he had never chosen to be particularly heroic before, his final choice was the very definition of heroism. And then Danny C. added, his death was hard for the group as they've all been together nearly a year, and more importantly, it was coming up on Zenward's birthday, something the group was jokingly talking about throwing a party for. So yeah, who's cutting onions?
Aw.
All right, so let's raise a glass in memory of Zenward Melric, who reminds us that if you're going to cut onions, you should rinse them off in cold water first so that the fumes don't get in your eyes and make you cry.
Is that right?
Supposedly.
Oh.
Never worked for me, but anyway. Clink.
Actually, the way to do it is like never cut off the root.
I've heard that too. I feel like that hasn't worked for me either.
I never have issues cutting onions. Like
I always do.
Like
It's
every once in a while it'll hit me hard, but usually it just I've gotten good enough at cutting them that I cut them fast enough where it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest part is just cutting them fast enough. You know, I worked in a Italian restaurant for a couple of years.
Right, yeah.
And
Antonio's?
Antonio's. Working the slicer, you'd have to, we'd slice so many onions. And so you've not only got just for like an hour at a time, you're slicing onions, but it's got the spinning blade that's basically throwing the juice up in the air.
Yep. Same thing at Jimmy John's.
Oh, awful. I'm getting teary just thinking about it. I don't know if I'm that's a psychosomatic reaction to the thoughts or if I'm crying because of the years I spent cutting onions. Anyway, to submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, on Reddit at r/interpartyconflict, on our Interparty Discord, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is a YouTube channel where we play video games, and I'm hoping... It sounds like Griff might be getting a more reasonable work schedule.
Oh, cool.
I haven't talked to him about it lately, so I'm not 100% sure, but hopefully we can get back into it pretty soon. So.
That'd be awesome. Also, I'm probably going to have a few weeks off from work coming up soon, so hopefully we can record some over the holiday.
Sounds good.
Speaking of video games, check out my side project, the Arcade Memories podcast. If you'd like to submit your own childhood memories of going to the arcade, record them or write them to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/interpartyconflict to take a short survey about our show, what you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games, from Nameless to Hackers RPG. So, Jeff, until next time...
Gabe, I cut up all these onions for your sandwich.
Oh, no!
I don't know.
I'm crying.